Today on Investigate TV Plus, a legal loophole allows easy access to a dangerous drug.
And it's sad that they're out there making more and more money as people are losing loved ones like myself.
We take an in-depth look at nitrous oxide, its devastating consequences, and the fight to change a state law.
Plus, help for our everyday heroes, the program bringing specialized mental health services to first responders.
Then the group getting up close to capture nature's beauty. In-depth stories that inform and inspire. You're watching Investigate TV Plus.
A drug you can find in your dentist office is also being used on the street for a brief but intense high. I'm Tisha Powell.
And I'm Lee Zurich. It's called nitrous oxide, also known as laughing gas. It's used in about 70% of dental practices that require sedation. Dental professionals must undergo several hours of training long before the mask goes on.
But experts say a legal loophole allows this drug to be sold in gas stations and corner shops across the country where it's bought for an addictive high.
Reporter Rob Krieger explains how and introduces us to some of the people personally impacted by nitrous oxide.
While it's heavily regulated in a clinical setting, nitrous oxide is also marketed as an ingredient for whipped cream, earning the nickname Whippets. In addition to a high, recreational users can also experience low blood pressure, fainting, and nerve damage. In late 2023, I spoke to Jenna Campbell, who started using the drug when she was 19 years old. She started with Whippets and eventually switched to these much larger tanks. Repeated use left her paralyzed. As she works toward recovery, Jenna and her father want other families to know of the dangers of nitrous oxide.
We're coming forward to help anybody else that might have a daughter struggling or a son struggling with addiction and gets a hold of one of these things.
Talk to your kids, talk to your family, explain what it is to them and the risks.
Our stories on Jenna, Greg, and others affected by nitrous oxide eventually caught lawmakers' attention. In May of 2024, Louisiana became the first state in the country to ban the retail sale of the drug, a solution moving forward, but a law that came too late for a woman and her fiancé.
I had everything picked out, my wedding dress, we had everything planned. I was actually going home that day for us to decide where we were going to go on our honeymoon. I called him twice like I do on my way home, and he didn't answer. And I pulled up to our house, and I saw that his car was parked in the middle. I went into our room, and I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. I found a book sack full of masks, the tank, the connection to the tank. He was hooked up to nitrous and no oxygen. I thought at first he was joking, and so I called his name, and immediately how his body looked, I knew that there is no return.
Ashley Broha found her fiancé, who we're not identifying, dead, hooked to a nitrous oxide tank like this.
Never in a million years thought I would watch him get rolled out of the house with the coroner's office.
An autopsy by the East Baton Rouge Parish coroner determined he died due to asphyxia because of nitrous oxide poisoning, just months before they were set to be married in January.
And it all went away in a day.
She believes her fiancé bought that nitrous oxide online after finding this box with a shipping label from a company which sells nitrous oxide through this website.
How are these people able just to get online and order these tanks with not having to have any type of validation that you're in the medical field, you're in the restaurant industry?
The site calls it a green alternative to whipped cream chargers, offering direct shipping of these industrial-sized nitrous oxide tanks across the country, even to hotels and Airbnbs.
They just ship them to wherever you are. It blows my mind. This can't be happening.
The website links this safety data sheet, warning of the potential toxicity and suffocation risks linked to inhaling nitrous, including frostbite, central nervous system depression, and unconsciousness. Broha is a dental hygienist required by state law to have certification every 2 years just to administer nitrous oxide on a patient.
But after the death of her fiancé, she found people seeking a high have far fewer restrictions than those in the medical field.
If I have to be certified, if I have to get a license, if I have to renew my license for being a dental hygienist every 2 years, then there's no way that kids and adults should be able to get online and just pay $9.99 for shipping fee and get nitrous tanks delivered to wherever they are.
I was incensed. There's a law, but there's a loophole in the law, and that's how they're getting around it.
State Representative Joe Stagney filed a bill to close those loopholes.
Under the pretense of making whipped cream, have flooded the smoke shops, convenience stores, and sold at festivals.
Through this process, for many people, it was an educational process.
Where is that available at? That's not a
gas stations, Amazon.
that size?
And it actually comes with a mouthpiece.
This was going on under our noses. We did not know it. And once legislators became aware, everybody was as aggressive as those of us who saw this earlier. When the governor signs this, there will be cases made against some retailers. And look, we put manufacturers in the bill. We increased the penalties to them, including jail time, and we're going to make some cases against these people who are hurting our citizens.
Stagney tells me he was alarmed after seeing our series detailing the dangers of nitrous oxide and the potentials for addiction associated with it. It's why he says he authored this bill and why he says he's proud Louisiana will now become the first state in the country to ban the retail sale of nitrous oxide. With a stroke of a pen, Governor Jeff Landry made history.
This is an absolute public safety bill that we hope further protects kids and so that parents out there are not affected by this.
It's disingenuous. It's greed. I mean, they're selling it and the producers producing it to make a profit, and it's all at the expense of our citizens, their families.
And it's sad that they're out there making more and more money as people are losing loved ones like myself.
We've had enough. We know enough people that have been hurt and injured by this, and you can't exploit that loophole for profit at the expense of hurting our citizens.
I don't want someone else to have to go through my pain, his family's pain, my family pain, our friends. It's not a good feeling to live with.
It's important to note it's illegal everywhere to sell this gas to minors.
In 2021, New York raised the minimum age to buy the tanks to 21.
Because this gas is still so accessible, we want to go in depth on how nitrous oxide can create potentially deadly effects on the body.
There can be all kind of nervous damage, cerebral damage, cardiovascular implications, long-term implications.
The body needs vitamin B12 to nourish the nervous system. As the gas inactivates the essential nutrient, it depletes a supply that could last for years in just a fraction of the time.
People look like they've had spinal cord injuries. It can start as simple as something called neuropathy in their like tingling sensations in their extremities, their arms and legs, and to having problems with muscle pains and nerve pains in their legs, and difficulty walking, to the point where people sometimes become bedbound.
Prolonged recreational use of the drug can also cause psychological conditions like depression and psychosis. You can watch all of our extensive coverage on nitrous oxide right now. Head to InvestigateTV.com and search Supplying a High.
Still ahead, a phony phone call cost this father $5 grand. How you can spot the red flags and stop scammers in their tracks before it's too late.
Plus, first responders head toward danger to protect the public. The service providing a lifeline for those whose job it is to save lives.
They're the people we call in an emergency, but as first responders experience trauma on the job, some face crises of their own. According to a 2018 report, 30% of first responders develop mental health conditions like depression and PTSD, compared to just 20% of the general population.
An Ohio fire department recognized this and teamed up with a group in hopes to help first responders in need of support.
Reporter Nicole Versansky shows us the program putting those everyday heroes first.
raging fires, horrific car accidents.
Those calls stick with you. You're gonna remember them from time to time for the rest of your life, probably.
In his 28 years as a firefighter, Rich Potter has seen a lot of tragedy.
You know, you don't want to show weakness, but that's when we're our most vulnerable.
These are individuals that are out there trying to serve the public, but what are we doing to help them?
For years in Medina County, that question was difficult to answer.
Cuyahoga County, for example, has a very robust program. Summit County has a very robust program. Medina didn't have one.
Enter FIRST, the First Responder Support Team. These are some of the people behind the push to bring it to Medina. Gail Huck of Alternative Paths is a licensed clinical counselor. Mike Savetsky and Brad Turner, EMS coordinators for the Cleveland Clinic. It's pretty simple, really. If a first responder is struggling, they reach out to FIRST.
Hey, we just had this call happen. It kind of hit us in the gut a little bit harder than usual. Would you mind coming out and talking to us a little bit?
Within 24 to 72 hours, a team of their own peers arrives to talk it out, all trained and certified in crisis intervention.
We have law enforcement, we have firefighters, dispatchers, corrections officers, as well as different rank, because we find that the trauma that one faces or the decisions that one face are going to be different from a line firefighter to an incident commander to a dispatcher.
They also provide resources for where to turn next if more help is needed. Gail's worked with first responders most of her career. She's seen what can happen without that support.
You'll see that it starts to affect people in terms of their relationships. You can see things like increase in use of substances, drinking. You can see social isolation, withdrawal, spending less time with peers.
But listen to this. In the 3 years since FIRST started in Medina County,
We had about 100 different responders come through our program already or utilize our program or our team so far in the county. So it is successful.
Assistant Chief Potter can tell you firsthand it's working.
It takes a little bit of the sting away. It helps with the second guessing and, you know, did I do everything that I could? Stuff like that.
And he's trying to help take that sting away for others. He's now a trained and certified member of FIRST. In fact, 52 first responders have signed on to help.
That's 52 people here throughout the county, spread amongst all agencies that are saying, I want you to call me and talk to me.
Do you think this is a solution to help with mental health?
Yeah, I think it's the first step in a culture change that has been long overdue in public safety.
The program is run in partnership with the Cleveland Clinic, so there is no cost to the department for these services. If you or someone you know is struggling, you can call or text the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline at any time at 988. First responders can text BADGE to 741-741 to connect confidentially with a trained crisis counselor.
Still ahead,
I think the goal is to really hone your sense of observation.
meet the artist of all skill levels leaving the confinement of 4 walls to paint among plants and wildlife.
Plus, a simple phone call cost this father thousands, and it's one you've probably had before. How you can protect your money and peace of mind.
Whether you answered it or not, you've likely received a scam phone call in recent months. For scammers, it's one of the most profitable ways to contact victims. In 2023, victims typically lost more than $1,400 in a phone scam, more than social media and email scams combined.
A Kentucky father lost far more when he says a fraudster spoofed his credit union's phone number and he was left to pay a hefty price.
Reporter Mark Stevens explains how it all happened and what you need to watch out for.
Got a 5-year-old there, my little daughter there, and a 2-year-old.
Philip Powell is raising a family of 5.
We like to do bowling a lot. That's one of our fun activities.
And as the kids get older, Powell and his wife have been improving their house every year. New floors in the bedrooms, new furniture, and new carpet in the hall. Not cheap.
You know, I got 5 kids. I can't afford to just donate $5,000.
But he feels like he donated $5,000 to his credit union after he was forced to repay a loan he never took out. He got a call in March from what he recognized as Navy Federal Credit Union's phone number.
And have you been trying to take money out of your account?
The caller was asking about a new $7,500 loan on his account.
I never applied for a loan. I told him, I said, hey, I'm at work right now. It's no way I didn't apply for this. And they said, oh no, don't worry. That's why we're calling. We're going to take care of everything.
The caller told him his bank balance, his last 3 transactions, the last 4 of his Social Security number. Powell thought it was legit.
He was just telling me like, hey, it's a good thing I caught this. Someone was trying to take money out of your account. They applied for this loan. I was just trying to verify that it was you.
The caller had good news. They could reverse the loan. Powell just needed to reset his password and add the manager to the account to transfer the $7,500 back to the credit union. The text looked legit, the phone numbers matched. Powell changed his password and called the credit union on a second phone to verify, but got stuck on hold. He felt comfortable transferring the money. Just then, the actual credit union picked up the phone, and after a brief back and forth,
no, this is not us. Hang up the phone immediately.
Shocked, Powell asked the actual credit union representative if they could stop the transfer. He sent the money 5 minutes ago. The rep assured him.
Well, the money looks like it was sent, but Navy Federal has a hold on the account.
A teller said the same thing when he went into the branch the next day to pick up a new debit card. But after getting back in town from a funeral, he had a letter waiting for him in the mail.
They were only able to recover $2,500, and I was responsible for the additional $5,000.
But Powell didn't understand why the credit union says he's on the hook for the money he transferred to a fraudster. He appealed the decision twice. The credit union denied him both times.
Yeah. What changed?
You had the money.
You had it on hold.
You are going to hear too bad, so sad, because there are no clear protections currently under federal or state law.
National Consumer Law Center's Carla Sanchez-Adams told senators in February they need to change the law to give consumers who get duped into transferring money to crooks more protections. Because right now, if they move the money like Powell did, the law says the liability is on them.
If you're a victim of payment fraud, your only hope of getting your money back is if it happened through an unauthorized electronic funds transfer.
I reached out to Navy Federal Credit Union to ask how it authorized Powell's loan in the first place and then couldn't claw the money back after being notified so quickly. A spokesperson declined an interview, saying they can't discuss details. Powell says he heard from the credit union after he paid off his loan with a note congratulating him for paying off the loan he never took out in the first place. In Louisville, Kentucky, I'm Mark Stevens.
Can you imagine that?
I cannot.
Congrats on paying off your loan.
That's infuriating to think that he lost that money and then, was on the hook for it after that, and he just didn't seem to get a lot of cooperation.
Yeah, I still don't know if it wasn't a wire. I don't know why they couldn't
reverse that
since he called so quickly.
Yeah. Well, here's how you can protect yourself and your money. First, never assume an unexpected call is legitimate. If you get a call like this, hang up and call the number on your bank statement or official website. You can also report the scam at reportfraud.ftc.gov.
Still ahead, art in the open.
The backlit effect is really quite beautiful.
A group of artists exploring new brushstrokes across their community. It's been a hobby for creatives for centuries. Plein air painting is the practice of painting landscapes outdoors with the subject in full view. The term comes from the French phrase plein air, which means in the open air.
A hobby for a Louisiana man evolved to include painters of all skill levels who meet every week.
Reporter Elizabeth Val introduces us to the group of artists taking their brushstrokes to the great outdoors.
The sunflower blooms of the Burton Museum and Gardens have an audience today.
I'm actually painting the back of a sunflower, which is kind of weird.
It's a gathering of artists.
The backlit effect is really quite beautiful.
Capturing their bright beauty before it fades.
I think the goal is to really hone your sense of observation. When you're outdoors and you sit in one location for 2-3 hours, you notice things you wouldn't otherwise notice.
David Gary started bringing artists together to paint outdoors about 8 years ago. Since 2017, every Thursday morning, the plein air artists pick a different location around Baton Rouge, grab their paints and brushes and easels, and spend a few hours creating.
So that's what, almost like 400 paint outs, which is pretty amazing if you think about it.
You never know what to expect. And I don't know, there's also this thing where you get to see something completely differently.
Painting outside can also be a fresh challenge, learning how to bring only the supplies you need and paint through the elements.
Just that keen, that observation, seeing the nuances in the shadows and seeing as the light moves, all the different things, the bugs, the heat, things you have to deal with. It's a different kind of discipline, and I think it brings out the best in an artist.
You don't have to be a professional artist to join the group.
You probably need the brighter, warmer over here so that you can compare them, right? And everybody learns from each other. I love her hat. When I started, I had painted in oils maybe for 2 or 3 months, just showed up, and people were so kind and just, found something to praise in it and helpful advice, and just kept going.
So we're waiting on.
And each session ends with friendly feedback to help everyone grow.
There's no intimidation, it's not competitive at all. We just want to all be better artists.
So at the end of the day, it's not so much about what comes out on the canvas and more about what's absorbed by slowing down and looking around.
I've gotten to paint in different neighborhoods and different parts around town that I didn't know existed, and that are really close to where I live, and so that's been wonderful.
It beats the heck out of sitting at a desk and checking email all day, for sure.
And that's it for us on Investigate TV Plus. I'm Lee Zurich.
And I'm Tisha Powell. Thanks for watching. On the next Investigate TV Plus, police officers fall behind as the power of electric vehicles overtakes gas.
That's negative. Continuing over McDaniel.
How embracing EVs could allow law enforcement to cut costs while reaching faster speeds.